over the years, Jeep has become renowned for building successful, rugged SUVs. Wrangler, Grand Cherokee, Renegade. But when the Compass first landed in the UK in 2007, it was far from a bestseller and it struggled to find its way. This week I've been joined by the brand new model, but is it able to head in the right direction? Looks are very important when it comes to SUVs. Well, unless it's a Nissan Juke, of course. So how does the Compass hold up? Well, I think it's quite a smart looking motor. Yes, it's not exactly a trendsetter and its looks are quite conservative, but I quite like it. It's quite a handsome looking beast. I must admit though, I'm not a big fan of this colour. I suppose this bronze / brownie colour makes the car look earthy, which makes sense. It's a Jeep, it's outdoorsy, it's rugged, but yes, I'm not a fan. Normally with this car you would get 18-inch alloys, but this particular model has been specified with the optional 19-inch alloys. The inside is a nice place to be. Okay, some may say it's a bit boring and a bit plain, especially when you compare it to a Renegade, but I do rather like it. It's quite smart in here. You've got a soft touch dashboard, gloss black surrounds, a nice silver gear knob, which, okay, it is a bit plasticky, but I do rather like it. And of course, you've got these sumptuous black leather seats with contrasting bronze stitching. And I do think this is a nice place to be. It's definitely more modern and more contemporary than the Qashqai I tested last week. But what about storage areas? Well, the door bins are of a good size. I've been able to squeeze in this 750 milliliter bottle of water. You've also got two cup holders in the middle, which I can just about get the bottle in. Let's pop it back there. And you've got a storage compartment here where you can put the key, loose change, or perhaps your smartphone. A storage area in the middle, which isn't quite as big as you were probably expecting, but it still offers a decent amount of space, although build quality doesn't seem fantastic. And last but not least, you've got a glove box which offers a decent amount of space. Yeah, very good indeed. Getting a good driving position is easy. The steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach, and my seat is also electronically adjustable. So like I say, very easy indeed. Now this car does have the optional panoramic roof, which would cost you £1,200, and as a result there is a little less headroom than you'd normally get, but I'm 6'2" and I've still got enough space. But what about the back? As always, the driver's seat has been altered for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a tall guy, but even so there is plenty of space left over. I've got plenty of legroom. I can really stretch out and relax. Very nice indeed. I won't lie, headroom could be better. As mentioned, this car does have the panoramic roof, which does rob you of space, but even so, yeah, space back here is very good indeed. So you can definitely fit adults in the back, but if you're more concerned about children, there are of course ISOFIX points. Open up the optional power tailgate and normally you would be greeted with 438 litres worth of space, but because this particular model has got the optional full-size spare wheel, boot space is cut down to 368 litres, so it's far from the biggest in class. However, if you do need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you almost 1,700 litres. It's quite noisy, isn't it? So what you're listening to is a rather loud 1.6 litre diesel engine which produces 118 brake horsepower as well as a fair amount of noise and 320 newton meters of torque. This power is fed to the front wheels via a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is quite snappy to use. It can be a tad notchy, but on the whole, yeah, it's quite a nice gearbox to use. It is quite pleasant. Now, what if you don't want this particular engine? Well, there are a choice of 2 petrols and 3 diesels in the Compass. So I've already mentioned this diesel engine, the 1.6, but you can also have a 2 litre diesel, which is offered with either 138 brake horsepower or 168 brake horsepower. Or if you want a petrol, you can have a 1.4 litre, which is available with 2 power outputs. So like the 2 litre, it comes with either 138 brake horsepower or 168. But let's get back to this diesel engine. As I've already mentioned, it is quite noisy, it isn't the most refined, and at first it does feel rather punchy, but I think that's purely because it lulls you into a false sense of security because it does make a fair bit of noise. It sounds faster than what you're actually going, but either way, it does have a fair amount of pull. It is quite a torquey engine, but like I say, the performance isn't quite as good as what the engine would lead you to believe. But on the plus side, it is the most frugal you can have in a Compass, and it emits the least CO2 as well. Now, in regards to fuel economy, this engine will offer you just under 65 mpg on a combined run, and in my experience, I've been getting around 50, maybe mid 50s if I really try. In regards to CO2, I suppose it comes as very little surprise that this engine is the greenest. It emits 117 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll pay £205, which is a lot more reasonable than the, I hope you're sitting down for this, the 1.4 litre petrol engine with 168 brake horsepower, which has a VED cost of £830. Yes, £830. So the diesel engine isn't particularly great, but what about the rest of the car? Now, I must admit, this is my first ever time driving a Jeep, so I wasn't too sure what to expect, and if I'm honest, I do rather like it. How much will the Compass cost you? There are 3 models available right now, which have starting prices between £23,555 and £34,925. The models in the range are as follows: Sport, Longitude and Limited. In the near future, you'll be able to buy the Trailhawk, which is the model you'll want if you're really serious about your off-roading. The model on test here is the Limited model, which is priced from £28,315. Included in this trim level, you'll get an 8.4-inch infotainment system with DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity and navigation, as well as 18-inch alloys, Beat sound system, dual zone climate control, heated steering wheel, heated front seats, cruise control, lane keep assist, front and rear parking sensors, keyless entry, park assist, the list goes on and on. But what about other trim levels? You've got the base model, which is called Sport, which is priced from £23,355, and that's able to offer you features such as a 5-inch touchscreen, Bluetooth, DAB radio, autonomous emergency braking, cruise control, electronic park brake, daytime running lights, hill start assist, lane departure warning, LED tail lamps, leather steering wheel, and 16-inch alloy wheels. Next up, you've got the Longitude model, which is priced from £25,315 and is able to add 8.4-inch touchscreen, navigation, dual zone climate control, keyless entry, rear parking camera, chrome detailing, and 17-inch alloy wheels. It's not the most dynamic, but it is quite comfortable. Yes, the ride is a bit busy because you've got 19-inch alloys, but overall the suspension setup does feel a bit softer than the Qashqai I tested last week. The only problem with that is that, of course, there is more body lean in the corners, and yeah, this car does like to lean a fair bit. Right, let's get it up to national speed limit, show it some corners and see what's what. Brakes aren't quite as sharp as other SUVs I've driven, and there's a fair amount of noise coming in here. Steering hasn't got much feedback. Yeah, not the greatest handling SUV money can buy, that's for certain. Now, I think to call it a land yacht would be harsh, but yes, it does like to wallow about a little bit, and especially down this road, which has got quite a few undulations. I can feel the car bobbing up and down. But Jeeps are more about off-roading. Now, you won't do much off-roading in this car because, as I've mentioned, it is front-wheel drive. But you can, of course, have this car with four-wheel drive, but you would need to have a different engine. Plus, you'd have to have a 9-speed automatic in order to do so. So if you're really desperate for a manual, then you'd have to have front-wheel drive. Now, four-wheel drive models are available with the more powerful 1.4 litre petrol engine or the 2 litre diesels, either the 138 brake horsepower or the 168 brake horsepower. The cabin is quite a nice place to be. I won't lie, it's not the quietest in here. As I've mentioned, the engine is rather noisy. There's a fair amount of road noise coming from these 19-inch alloys, and there's a fair amount of wind noise as well. So if you're looking for the most refined SUV, you may not find it here. You may need to look elsewhere. Visibility is not really this car's strong point. You've got chunky A-pillars as you would normally get in an SUV, but the windows are all quite small. It's almost like Jeep had a really tight budget for glass. So you do get quite small windows. The rear window isn't particularly large either. So if I were you, I would definitely look at a model which has parking sensors. Visibility may not be great, but at least this car is a lot safer than its predecessor, which was only able to get 2 stars from Euro NCAP. The new model is much more sophisticated and it has more technology, therefore it's been able to get 5 stars from Euro NCAP. So, to conclude, is the Jeep Compass a worthy entrant to an ever-increasing SUV market? Yes, I believe it is. It's got smart looks, a pleasant and spacious interior, a good level of kit, and it's comfortable. I won't lie, it's not perfect. It could do with a bigger boot, and I really think it needs to be a bit more refined to really compete with European rivals. But for my first time ever driving a Jeep, I'm quite impressed. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give it a massive thumbs up. And if you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.